competition. Stevie Wonder trying to do the dash. Sweater, I'm the coldest, run them over like an avalanche. I might break a nail for real the way I'm thumbing through this cash. Get some tummy tea for my toe bag because it's hella fat. Beauty and beast, where is my feast? We can't fight, you're thirsty, I'm ready to eat. Seldom I'm seen, I'm chasing my dream. What is up, my blushing glams? Like I fit for me, it's your girl Blush, and we are back with another glam chat. It's a sit down video. We're gonna be doing, I haven't done a Boss Babe video in a while, so I thought I'd sit and chime in and chat with you guys. So we all grown now, right? We're getting old. Well, before we begin, if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. You're gonna love it here. I talk fashion, I talk beauty, I talk lifestyle, do lifestyle vlogs. You're gonna love it here. And I would love for you to be a part of the family. So in order to do so, you just gotta hit that subscribe button. You can find it somewhere in the bottom of the screen here. And make sure that the bell is also, you hit that bell as well. Anyways, now that that's out the way. I had these earrings on a couple of weeks ago. I had a photo shoot that I did. And I had these earrings on, and I got quite a few questions and inquiries about these earrings. And yes, these earrings are basically glam served. It is an earring that I pretty much am offering. Now, it's not on the site as yet. I have not updated my site within the last couple of weeks. So I'm gonna get on top of that and update, because I have a few new items that I need to update onto the site. So these will be available for you to purchase. I'd say give me about another 2 weeks, because I still have to get some other inventory in. But within the next 2 weeks, you should be able to get these for those of you guys that are asking about these earrings. So yeah. Okay, all right, so this video, basically, I'm gonna be sharing some advice to my 20-somethings, you know. You're probably fresh out of high school, or, you know, you're kind of just diving into college, and life is happening. You're officially an adult now. The thing about it is, in my case, when I was going into college, when I had graduated high school, I was pretty much first generation in my household. Now, of course, I had other family members like outside my family, outside of my immediate family, that have graduated high school, that went off to college and did great things. But in my immediate household, I was pretty much first generation graduating high school, first generation going into college. So there's a lot of things that I literally had to learn essentially the hard way. My mom didn't know a lot of these things because, one, she was not raised here, so she didn't really know the ways of the land here. And her culture is totally different from the culture here. So while she taught me things that is of her culture, a lot of it couldn't really apply to what is happening in the US, because like currency and school education system is not the same, you know? But anyways, I wanted to go ahead and see if I can share some of my advice, and I'm gonna try to stick to more of financial stuff because this is a Boss Babe video. I wanted to go ahead and stick more into like some financial advice of things that I wish I would have learned when I was first graduating high school and hopping into college, that I feel like could have helped me and steer me into the right direction, so that, you know, when I got into my later 20s and 30s and things like that, like I was more well off. So to begin, I'm gonna go ahead and say, we're gonna start off with career choice. So of course, by the time you graduate high school, you're probably not gonna be in your career. You probably don't even know what, literally, you may not even know what you wanna do. You might have an idea. You might. And the thing about it is, once you get into college, it changes, because you might start to get into the field and realize it's not what you want. My biggest advice to those who are just graduating high school, or 20-somethings who probably are your first, second year of college, is do your research. Now, what I realized in the last few months, you know, there's been that battle with loan forgiveness and things like that. So I kind of was reading up on it a little bit, because of course I wanted to see if I was going to be eligible to have some of my loans forgiving, that would be perfect, especially since I was kind of in the middle of trying to do the whole home buying thing. Which update on that, we kind of put it on a slight pause. I don't want to pause too much because I feel like I'm gonna lose momentum in, you know, keeping ourselves driven and on top of the whole home buying thing. But things have been a little crazy with the prices and interest rates and just kind of the feds and how they're doing things. So we just kind of wanted to monitor things a little bit before we kind of jump back into the whole home buying process, just so we can make sure that we're getting the best rate and best price for us in the home that we get into. Anyway, that's not what we're talking here about. But anyways, so research. So when I was reading some of the things, you know, although I feel like loan forgiveness, I think it's a good idea, especially since, to be honest, there's a lot of situations where we get into like things that are promised to us that we're not really getting when it comes to the whole school thing. But at the same time, what some people, the point that some people have made, which I slightly do agree with, and I'm saying this only because of what I've been through in my lifetime, research, you know, there's a lot of information out there about how much money you can make in certain areas and in certain type of fields. So what a doctor may make here in Florida may make differently in New York and may make differently in California, and even parts of the state. So South Florida and Central Florida and North Florida, the rates are gonna be a little different. Cost of living is gonna be different. So when you decide that you wanna get into a specific type of career or field, it's your due diligence to kind of do the research, find out more about it. Is it in demand? Do they foresee, like, what's the forecast in the next 10 to 15 years for this particular field? Are there different avenues of it, or is it just kind of like one area of it? How much, you know, what's the median? What's the average rate of what that person in that field would make? What about females? What about males? There's different things that you need to look at when you are deciding, okay, I wanted to get into a particular field, and it is your due diligence to research that. In addition to that, what I would also recommend is possibly looking into majors and minors. So let's say, for example, like, just because some people wants to follow their dreams, I'm not denying or recommending or not recommending that, but if you do want to follow your dreams when it comes to career-wise, I say, again, do your research and then get a major and a minor. So you can kind of get a major in something that's probably relevant in today's society, and then minor probably in what your passion is. So let's say, for example, you like to dance and sing. Maybe you can minor in performing arts and major in nursing. I'm just giving an example. That's something that I would recommend that you all do, because that way you can get the best of both worlds. So if it, for whatever reason, doesn't work out with your passion, you always have what you majored in to fall back on. Side hustles. So let's say, for example, you get into something, maybe just something that is not so great. Definitely look into side hustles, especially in this day and age. Like when I was in my 20-something, like things were like kind of going up in price, but it's not as crazy as it is now. Nowadays, most people, if your one job may not be able to cover all of your expenses. So definitely looking into getting a side hustle. I mean, if you're in your 20-somethings or you just graduated high school, chances are, and I know there are exceptions to the rules because of course things happen, but chances are you're probably still living at home with mom and dad or both. You probably have no kids and you probably have no major bills. Maybe a car note, maybe car insurance, something like that, but your bills are not that, crazy. So you have that extra time to focus on you. So that's why I'm saying, like, getting a side hustle is something you can kind of look into, as opposed to like, a single parent who has 2 kids. It's not that, I mean, they can get a second job or a side hustle, but it's not always going to be easy for them because they always have to make sure they have a babysitter, and even the babysitter itself is going to cost money. So take advantage of the fact that you're younger, probably have more energy, and you know, you have more leeway when it comes to kind of like adding things to your schedule and things of that sort. With that being said, it doesn't mean to wear yourself out. I would never recommend that you wear yourself out. You always need time for self-care, you know, to kind of like focus on you. But focusing on you is also making sure that you are straight financially as well. So, you know, just kind of look at your different options. Second thing is, it's always a good time to start to build credit. Now, I know in most states, you know, the average legal age to maybe purchase something in your own name might be 18 years old. But I think in certain scenarios, you should be able to at least start your credit beforehand. There are things that your parents can do to help you out. So if your parents can trust you enough to maybe add you onto their credit card, so that by the time you even graduate high school, like maybe by the time you're 16, they can add you as like an authorized user on their cards. Now, they may not give you the actual card to use at 16, but at least you're on it, so that they've been building your credit since you were in your teens, and by the time you graduate high school, you already have established credit. Now, if that's not a possibility for you, don't fret. You can always still build your own credit. You just kind of have to find some responsible and good ways of building your credit, especially if you have like your bank, your credit union, if you have a credit union or something like that. I know when I graduated high school, which is the main reason why I want to kind of bring this point up. When I graduated high school, by the time I turned 18, I had so many credit card companies writing me to get, you know, to basically establish credit with them. And it's not because I had great credit, but because my credit was fresh out. You know, I'm fresh meat, fresh fish out the pond. And it's very important that you know what types of credits to build. So like I said, getting a card maybe from like your Navy, like for example, Navy credit, if you have like family that's in the armed forces or anything like that, or any other credit union, definitely I would say that's a good idea. If you purchase something like maybe a car, that's another way to establish credit as well. But although even getting that car, it might require you to have decent credit, unless you just get something to kind of like drive you off the lot. That's another way to kind of build credit, but you also have to look at what kind of interest rates you're going to be getting and things like that, because that can also be what blindsides you. Now, like I mentioned before, when I graduated high school, I got like all these different things in the mail, and I was like, I didn't know any better. So I'm like, okay, shoot, Macy's is writing me, Victoria's Secret is writing me, Bloomingdale's is writing me, such and such is writing me, Brandsmart, whichever. And I'm like, okay, shoot, I'm gonna register and apply away. And lo and behold, of course, I got granted those cards. But what you don't understand is that most of these department stores, their interest rates are skyrocket. That's one. It's just not, I mean, I'm not saying don't get it, because again, if you're responsible enough to kind of like purchase something and then paid in full by your next statement, that works for you. But if you are the type of person that just kind of only pay the minimum payment due, which I really wouldn't recommend that on any scenario, but if that's all you can do, getting those department stores cards is not the best option, because again, interest and all these extra fees that they tack onto it, APRs and late fees and all types of different fees that you end up paying way more in the end. So yes, it's good to build credit, but you want to make sure that the credit you're building it makes sense and it's not going to mess you up in the end. Because by the time I was done, like even though like the credit, like on my Victoria's Secret, all I had like only was like $250, which 18-year-olds should be able to manage $250, but I didn't know anything about credit. So that $250, I ended up owing them like $500-600 in the end, because if I'm late one month, late fee is like $30-40. If I go over the $250 limit that I have, over the limit fee, $30. All these extra things they add on, and eventually by the time I was done with them, I ended up owing them 2 times more than what the original credit limit was. So I finished paying them off, and I didn't want anything to do with Victoria's Secret after that. But they're not the only company that's like that. Most department stores, to me, I think are like vultures when it comes to especially young people with young credit. The other thing I would recommend is getting into savings. So being on top of your savings, and especially if you're not getting a lot of money, you want to make sure that you kind of like make sure that all your funds are being allocated to where they need to go to, your bills, lunch, gas, whatever the case is. But you also want to make sure you set aside, even if it's $25 every paycheck, $50 or whatever the case is, you set aside some money for savings. What I would recommend also, which I didn't know too much about when I was growing up, is investing. Investing could be anything in life insurance is a form of investments, because they do have life insurance where you can do cash value, and a lot of wealthy people, that's how they get their money in. Stocks, if you are very good with stocks and things like that, you can look into trading, and 401ks, IRAs, and things like that. You don't have to have a job in order to have a life insurance. Okay. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't recommend that, because when you leave that job, you no longer have coverage. So definitely look into getting your own life insurance. And then 401k, you don't have to have a job just to have 401k. So if your job, like if you're working part-time and your job doesn't offer you 401k or Roth IRA or anything like that, there's companies out there that does offer that, even maybe through your bank. So definitely look into savings, investments, because those things add up. By the time you get to a certain age, you might have X amount of dollars already in your account, because you're responsible enough to kind of put money, set money aside. Purchasing. Now, when you're young, just like I said, so, you're young, you got all these credit card companies writing you, you got, you probably just got your part-time job, you got a little bit of money in your pocket, you're staying at home with your mom, your parents, so you don't feel like you have any major responsibilities, so you want to shop till you drop. And that's all good, because, you're young, like I said, and you don't have any major responsibilities. But the thing about it is, like, when I got to a certain age in life, and I look back on all the purchases that I made, I really felt like it was wasted, because I have those things I don't have anymore, and they really, in the end, wasn't worth anything. Do you treat yourself? Of course. Can I tell you what to treat you? Can I tell you what to treat yourself to? No, because I don't know what your interests are. I don't know what makes you smile, what makes you happy, makes you feel bubbly inside. It's okay to treat yourself every now and again, but I feel like, especially big purchases definitely, it has to make sense. So like, I see people nowadays, like designers, it's like, a thing. Like, you have to have designer shoes, designer this and designer that. But a lot of those things, unless they're like vintage things, maybe Dior, Chanel, I don't even know Louis Vuitton. I know Gucci usually loses value. You have to keep in mind that some of these things, by the time you leave that store, if you were to go ahead and resell it at one of those resellers like The Real, you probably wouldn't even get much money. Poshmark or whatever the case is. Like, I had to learn the hard way. Like, you purchase these things $300, $400, $500, $600, $1,000, and if you go on to Poshmark to try to sell it back, these people they only want $20. They only want to give you $20, something that you paid almost $300, $400 for. You probably barely wore. You don't have any marks on it. But guess what? Those things don't really keep their value. Now, if you get something like maybe Rolex, I think even Tiffany's. I don't know. I'm not sure about Tiffany's, but I think Tiffany's jewelries and things like that, those keep value. Stay away from companies like Jared, Kay's, even Pandora, if you can. Like, if you can stay away from those companies like Jared, Kay's, Zales, and things like that. The reason why I'm saying that is because, and it's from, again, I'm telling you this because of my own experiences. I've purchased jewelry from those locations where I'm paying small earrings, sets of earrings. You're paying $400 or $500 for the set. Necklaces, $800, $600. Rings, like, I'm not sure. Your wedding bands might be upper $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I guarantee you, if you were to take those jewelries to certain places, especially if it's not gold, like for example, if it's like sterling silver, but you have like diamonds in there, You're not gonna, like, if you decided you wanted to resell it somewhere else, you're not gonna get much of anything for those things, even though you spend hundreds, close to thousands of dollars on that jewelry. Because in those places, what you're paying for, it's not really the quality of the item, even though they make it seem like those items are quality. You're just really paying for the name. And I've had reseller companies tell me that straight up, like, don't, like, if you're gonna buy jewelry, better you kind of like, you know, if you wanna buy quote unquote high-end jewelry, those aren't the places to buy, because they're charging you really for the name, and the quality of the jewelry pieces is not really what it is. So that's my advice to you. I had to learn the hard way when it came to, you know, those type of purchases. You know, am I telling you don't treat yourself? Am I telling you don't buy nice things? Am I telling you don't buy jewelry? No. But what I'm saying is to make smart investments. If you are gonna buy a jewelry piece, make sure it's something that, God forbid, if something happened and you need to resell something, you need to make money for yourself or whatever, it can give you back the money that you made, that you're spending on it. Because it makes no sense to spend $2,000 on something, and if you needed to resell it, you couldn't. Or you wouldn't even get a quarter of what you paid for it. So just think about that. And I would say my last thing would be advice to 20-somethings is to do meaningful travel. There's a lot of places, hundreds and hundreds of locations and cities and countries in the world. You meet different cultures, different people, different types of foods, different types of music, different types of lifestyles, different types of cultures. While you're in your 20-somethings, if you can afford it, do meaningful, safe travels. Like, you know, if you can get a friend, you don't even have to be a group. If it's a group, cool. But I know sometimes it's not easy to get 4 or 5 people together on one accord to kind of travel. But if you can get at least one person that you trust, that you can go with and travel with whenever you need to, do that. I personally, I'm not that big on solo traveling, and it's probably, I don't know, I'm married, so that could be it too. Maybe if I was single and I was, you know, I really had nobody, like nothing kind of tying me down, you know, maybe solo traveling would be something, because I think it's cool that you can be able to travel and go by yourself without having to wait on somebody else. But, you know, if it's a thing, if you can do it and you can do it safely, because I know that there's ways, I know people personally, like I know like cousins that travel on their own. But there's things that you should do, you know, contact the embassy, make sure you always have a way to keep, you know, your family keep in contact with you, make sure you have your location on, things like that you can look into if that's what you want to do. But most importantly, what I'm trying to say is get out there. Even if it's not out the country, you live in Florida, like at least once or twice in the year, pick another city to go and visit. You know, maybe you want to go ahead and visit New Orleans. Maybe you want to go ahead and visit New York. Maybe you want to go to Washington, D.C. Maybe you want to go to Chicago. Maybe you want to go to Texas. Maybe you want to go, there's so many places here in the States alone that you can travel to if you are not ready to do out of the country traveling. But travel, see what's out there, because I think that also helps to shape how your life will be, because when you can see other cultures, I think it kind of like, it puts like a little inch, a little splash of maturity on you. I feel. But those are my advice that I can give to my little 20-somethings, all right? Live life, but be responsible. You know, don't think that just because you're young and you don't have any major responsibilities that it's not your due diligence to be responsible. You should still be responsible in the decisions that you make, because to be honest, the decisions that you make, or the lack of decisions that you make in your 20-somethings, most likely will affect you in your late 20s and your 30s and here forward. Because honestly speaking, things that I didn't take seriously when it came to my credit, I had to pay. I'm paying for it, you know, now, because now it's a little bit much harder for me to get certain things because I didn't take my credit. Long story short, decisions that I made, like when it came to my credit, money handling, I'm having to fix a lot of those now. So be responsible. Live life, of course, but be responsible. Anyways, Sorry, y'all. I'm over here munching on some Welch's fruit snacks. Until we meet again. Ciao. Later.